if you want to support the show, any of the shows, either this or whichever show, I'm not on right now because this is just a blanket ad for all of them, and the website, you can go to bewareofspoilers.com. In the description for any of the episodes of Beware of Spoilers, there is the option to donate. If you don't want to donate that way, you can donate directly through the website. We do have that, mwpnews.com. And if you don't want to support that way, then going to mwpnews.com will help out because we have ads there. We don't want to keep it, where there's a lot of ads. There's a few ads. But the point is we want to make it so that way, we can sustain this for the long term. If people donate, we're never going to paywall anything, I don't think, as of right now. But if people, start donating, we'll start doing cooler and cooler stuff. Like donations are how we get to cover stuff like Tribeca and other, film festivals. And, we may be able to bring on more people to help out. So if you want to help out the show and you want more content from us, by all means, even just going and giving us a 5-star rating on Spotify helps out a lot. But that's it. That's the only ad we'll have on the podcast ever. But here's whatever podcast you're going to be listening to. Good morning and welcome to, afternoon by the time this goes up, and welcome to 30-minute reviews. I am Adam, the convoy. I'm trying to back out of the driveway. And we're here today to talk about WandaVision. I missed last week, but, today we're back. And we're going to do episodes 3 and 4 today. And I think what this is, I don't remember if I said this when I watched the show initially back in 2021. The first 2 episodes, you probably don't need both. You probably don't need both episodes. You probably just need the second. I don't think there's really anything in the first that is additional that needs to be there, and you can probably get away with that. I think that the first 2 episodes should have been episode 2 and episode 3. Episode 1 feels like a proof of concept. Episodes 2 and 3 are kind of where the show starts taking off, because it introduces Geraldine. I mean, I think the only reason is because in episode 4 we see the fact that, this has already started, and, Geraldine is not there. And then she comes in and slowly gets integrated to get the speaking part. Geraldine being Monica. I think that's the only reason why that's like that. But I don't think that's enough of a reason to work this show the way it is. And I think that it's a kind of a waste of a first episode. That said, I think that the third episode is kind of the first time we start to get the indication that this is the solid indication that this is Wanda. It's not. I'm not saying it's hard to figure out what's going on here. But it is it's very clearly, after these first 4 episodes, 4 out of 9, so we're about halfway through the show, a little under halfway through the show, it's very obvious that this is all Wanda's doing, and there are some cool little things that, as we figure out it's a hex, the town of Westview is in a hex, in episode 3, the intro is all hex-based, that's pretty cool, but it's at no point during this is there any indication that there's anything at play beyond Wanda. It's just Wanda. And I think even in the 4th episode, he says, it's Wanda, it's all Wanda. or no, Geraldine, I keep calling it Geraldine because that's what they refer to her in the first two episodes, but to Monica, she says it's Wanda, it's all Wanda. Like, and the thing is, too, it's like, I think the thing that really sets in motion the idea that, no, it's not Wanda doing this, is that in episode 2, we get that call-in from Jimmy Woo, the Wanda who's doing this to you, Wanda. And it's like, look, I think that it's time to look at this as, like, you know, we need to address the elephant in the room. Wanda's the bad guy of this show. Wanda is not a hero here. Like, Wanda, like, I don't remember, as we get toward the end, like, when she fights, like, what's her name? When she fights, Agnes, or Agatha. Like, as we get to the end and that ends up happening, like, what does that mean? Like, what was the reason for that? Were they able to phrase that, well, Wanda's a good person? Was Agnes going to kill the kids? But then Wanda just ends up letting the kids die anyway, and then she goes into the multiverse to try and find them. Like, it's kind of a weird place to put the characters in. Like, because it's hard to look at this show and she's taking an entire town hostage. Like, yes, you can understand where she's coming from and everything that happened. But, like, even in episode 3, like, the moment that, what's her name? That Monica says, like, oh, your brother Pietro, he was killed by Ultron. Like, right? And it's like, Wanda saying, how do you know that name? You're an outsider. Is all the proof we should have needed by the 3rd episode that this is just Wanda. Because what it is she's looking at, like, she is the one creating the reality. She is the one who is looking around and being like, oh, well, I'm going to dictate what is and isn't in here. And for it to be like, you know, I don't want that much reality in this, you know, in this. And then it's like, for it to break for that moment in episode 4, where, you know, she looks up at Vision and sees the corpse of Vision. Like, that's a big moment. Like it's weird. Like, I think a lot of what happens in this, you know, in this show is kind of, you know, trying to leave breadcrumbs in directions that aren't what the overarching mystery is going to be. It's kind of like they're trying to set you up to theorize, which, like, okay, but I don't know. I feel like it's just all red herrings, but for no good reason. Like, I don't think there's a compelling enough reason to be like, oh, well, why are we doing X, Y, and Z? I think the compelling reason they did that is Disney Plus, and it's to promote Disney Plus. And again, yet another example I think this is, and I've speculated about this before here, beware of spoilers everywhere else, like, the decisions that were being made at Marvel Studios throughout most of Phase 4, now into Phase 5 and into Phase 6, are not in the best interest of story, they're not in the best interest of character, they're not in the best interest of plot, or theme, or anything like that. The decisions are the best interest of corporate interests. And in this case, the corporate interest is for value in the Fox deal, which is how, like, that's, like, this show comes out, and we haven't gotten to it yet, but I think it's next episode, we get the introduction of Evan Peters as Pietro, and it's, you know, it turns out, oh, look, it's not actually him from the Fox universe. Like, it's not actually Quicksilver. Like, even though he's playing Quicksilver, it's actually a guy who's, you know, not really him. Like, it's again, weird choice. And again, the fact that Pietro shows up and like, I don't understand how people were so baffled by this. And, like, because I remember at the end of next episode is the Pietro reveal. Like, the Pietro reveal. And again, this episode again has that same, like, episode 3 has that same issue where it doesn't feel like a 60s episode. And they do the aspect ratio thing that I've been complaining about up until now. They do the aspect ratio thing. at the end of the episode, where you get to the point where it's like, okay, we are now out of the sitcom, so we're moving out of that, and we're moving into the traditional movie kind of framing, because we're back to that. It just kind of is like, okay, but I don't know, like, you could have done that in the Hex too, to greater effect. Yeah, there's just a lot kind of going on here that isn't quite, I don't want to say earned, but well enough laid out to where I'm like, this is, kind of well executed. And that's what I would say about the Disney Plus thing, where it's like, this is Marvel Studios' first out. It would have been their second, but COVID happened, so they hadn't finished shooting Falcon and the Winter Soldier. But they did finish shooting this, and a lot of this was easy enough to finish in post. So the issue becomes, well, what about, how do we do? And also, Falcon and the Winter Soldier had to do massive reshoots because of they didn't know it was going to happen, the COVID similarities between the pandemic plotline that was going to be in the show that ended up getting cut due to COVID. But the issue is, as I'm watching this, I find myself asking, why are you going to spend all this time putting putting this level of misdirecting mystery into this show? I think the only good answer that I can come up with is that level of speculation on a weekly basis is going to lead people to subscribe to Disney Plus to see what people are talking about. That's the only reason I can see that. And I think it is because of that we end up with Matt Shakman as director of Fantastic Four. Because again, like, one of the things that this show does very well is when it builds an aesthetic for an era, it leans into that aesthetic. Like, that's the aspect of this that I think the show does very well, is while the camera movement and all that may not look like a show from the era it's meant to be, like, it looks too modern in that respect. The production design, A+. Like, the house that they live in episode 3, the 60s house, looks like a 60s sitcom house. And each time they shift times and shift kind of eras, it maintains that look of, like, this is what a house on a sitcom looked like in this time. Like what was it? The one in the 60s kind of looks like Dick Van Dyke, and I think they do a great job of kind of, landing all of that very well. The plot lines sometimes are a little too modern. The dialogue sometimes is a little too modern. There's a lot of a little too modern a few too many times, but by and large, I think a lot of it kind of works. Like, it's, I don't know, like, it doesn't have to be this level of misdirect and all of that. I think that was kind of my big issue continuing to watch the show now, is this idea that, like, we're sitting here and we're watching this kind of continue to just be, continue to just be the same, it's like, oh, is it going to be this? Is this going to be happening? Like, and then on top of that, too, it's like for episode 3 to have this, like, oh, who's Geraldine? Geraldine doesn't have a house. Geraldine doesn't live here. Geraldine's an outsider. It's like, it's a weird situation, again, to have the characters in, because it's like you're building a mystique around Geraldine that, gets resolved, like, the next week, because we find out the truth about Geraldine being Monica the next episode. And I think the thing is, too, like, one of the things I think that worked very well was the way they show the chaos of the post-blip world. This is something that I really liked the first time, and I really liked the second time. When Hulk snaps everyone back, and all the people who were snapped away by Thanos return, and we see that chaos in the hospital where it's like people are walking through the hospital and they're just reappearing, and it's like, oh, here's a guy who was here to visit someone, obviously, and he's reappeared in the, there. She was asleep she fell asleep in her mom's room because her mom had surgery to deal with the cancer, and she fell asleep there, and that was it. And it's like, the one weird thing is that it's like, you disappeared, like it's her fault, like she went off and vanished, or it was like, I can't sit here anymore, and then left and never came back. That, like, that's one weird aspect of this. Like, that's a, you know, like, it's a weird phrasing of that, considering it's like, look around you, it's fucking, like, complete and utter chaos here. Like, why is that a thing? Like, why is it like you're acting like, oh, she left? Like, no. Like, an alien came from space with 6 magic rocks and you know, and decided to snap half the universe out of existence. It wasn't like she's like, well, I'm done here now, and you will never see me again. It's a weird, like, I never heard it be like, hey, where's my mom? Like, it's such a weird, like, you know, for it to be like, the doctor's treating her like, oh, you left. If it happened, like, the day before the blip, it'd be like, okay, maybe she just, you know, but either way, it's like, half the population is just dead. Now, half the population is coming back. And I think we've reached a point now where we're not going to talk about the blip anymore. Or we're not going to openly acknowledge, like, the issues that come about as a result of the blip. But it's a shame, because it's like, I would like to see more of that. Like, maybe just do a network drama budget show on Disney Plus, where it's just like, you know, Tales of the Blip, where it's like, what happens when people come back, the lives that get upended and all of that. Like, we get a few references to that, but I would like to see it more in depth. But on that note, we will wrap up there for today. Our next episode will be Monday. We'll be talking about a movie. I haven't decided which one yet, but we'll be talking about that then. So until Monday, have a great rest of your week.